First Steps in the Higher Life, Step 5. From James Allen's book, Out from the Heart. My name is Stephen Adderstein. And welcome to the Narrowing Path, walking the spiritual walk. And it's been a roller coaster getting to this step. There has been so much we've talked about when it comes to the words we use, how we conduct ourselves in speech, and also just those first couple of steps regarding our physical bodies and some ways to discipline that and create healthier habits, healthier structures, stuff like that. So we are going through the book, a chapter from the book, Out from the Heart. Come on, lighting. You probably can't see it. All right. Out from the Heart by James Allen. And we're specifically in the 5th chapter, I believe it is, First Steps in the Higher Life. And this chapter is where James Allen gives us a set of 10 steps to follow to help us as guides to better behavior, better living, better discipline of the mind, better growth of soul and spirit. And the first two were for the body, and this is the third one is in the speech and disciplining our tongue, vices of the tongue. And first one for the tongue was slander. Second was gossip. And this week it is abusive and unkind speech, which those are some big words. That's a lot of really relevant stuff. And also weighted words, especially in today's society, right? Like, we do use the gift we have to be able to verbally communicate. We use it abrasively. We use it abusively. We use it in ways that are unkind and unhealthy and malicious. So, I'm really looking forward to taking a look at this and going through this with you. So, the first two steps were about discipline of the body, which was indolence and self-indulgence, two that I have struggled with. So let's get into the reading for today. I will be reading out of this copy. This is early 1900s copy of the book when it was originally released. This is a mass market reproduction that I bought off Amazon. This one works. I got all my notes and it's marked up and all the good stuff's in there. So let's go ahead, and I will be reading, though, out of the older copy that I have, just to make sure the authenticity of the words is correct. So here we go. This is the 5th step in James Allen's 10 steps and from the chapter First Steps in the Higher Life, from James Allen's book, Out from the Heart. Abusive and unkind speech is the next vice to overcome. The man who abuses and accuses others has himself wandered far from the right way. To hurl hard words and names at others is to sink deeply into folly. When a man is inclined to abuse and condemn others, let him restrain his tongue and look in upon himself. The virtuous man refrains from abuse and quarreling and employs only words that are useful, necessary, pure, and true. So it's another one paragrapher. That's it. That's the end of the reading. We're doing one paragraph. I think it's 4 sentences. And there's a lot in those sentences, though. Let me tell you, there's a lot in those sentences, and it's just interesting. Like I said, I'm learning right along with you. I'm practicing this stuff right along with those who are following along. I've gone through these steps before. I've taken some actions on these steps before, and I'm revisiting them. And that's why I'm bringing them to this podcast. And we can kind of grow together, and I can share my experiences with you as we go through these steps. And I'll share where I fall down. And I'll share what I do well. And my honest first impression of this paragraph when I reread it the first time, it was almost dismissive, which is odd. I first read it and I said, well, of course, this is obvious. This will be, now it's like, this will be a quick podcast. This is pretty simple stuff here. Everyone knows this. And then I remembered that for me, and we all have these types of behaviors that we need to identify in ourselves. And I think this is more common than just me, obviously. But when I read something and I dismiss it in a way that says, I know this already, I've got to be very careful with that. Because I have a mind that'll convince me just to not look at something. I'll dismiss something because it doesn't want to recognize it or work on it. It's very odd. I do that with my vices. Like, there's the, in 12-step recovery, they say you have to be honest, open-minded, and willing. And I know when I'm not being one of those three things and I try to talk about them, I'll forget one of them. I'll forget the one I'm struggling with, right? Like if I can only think of open-mindedness and willingness, and I can't remember the third one, that's honesty, I'm probably not being honest about something, right? That's just how my brain works. So I kind of had one of those moments when I was reading this paragraph. I was just like, oh, of course, this will be, don't need to talk about it too much. It'll be a short episode today. Not the case. So I went back to it. Even though it seemed self-explanatory, and at first blush, the information's pretty obvious, right? Don't name call, and be nice. Of course, all that you do. And then you take another look at it. I took another look at it. I became more open-minded, and I was like, okay, let's actually break this down a little bit. Let's actually have a little bit more of a willingness to apply it. Let's have a little bit more willingness to face the fact that I probably have an issue with this if I am trying to breeze right over it. So I was like, well, we'll take another look at it. So I did, and I'm really grateful that I did. This is one that I would say almost 100% of people in the Western world have a hard time with. Obviously, I can't say all of it. A lot of them, though, a lot of people, including myself, it turns out, right? This isn't as cut and dry or as simple as I initially wanted to make it seem. I struggle with this. And I've gotten a lot better at it over the years. That I will give myself credit for, or I will more so acknowledge, not give myself credit for, because it's been a lot of work into that. A lot of people have helped me with it. But many people in the Western world struggle with this, with the content of this step. We name call all the time. We label, we degrade, we defame people. We speak with malicious intent all the time. And it's become so incorporated. It's just a natural, people treat it like it's just a natural way to speak to each other and to speak about each other and to argue. We've become lost in who has the best insult type of arguments. We've become lost in who can cause the most damage type of arguments. We've actually lost the art of productive conversation and productive disagreement with a lot of things. And wow, you want to talk about something appropriate for the times. We are a nation of people that can agree on nothing. Everybody, not everybody. But there's sides on everything. There's a split on every single topic, and it's like it's not just a split. It's not a line in the sand, and it's a chasm. It's been widened and dug into till it's this huge trench of a gap between both sides. It's almost seemingly unable to be crossed. So this is, the gossip was relevant, the slander was relevant, but this one, especially right now in 2026, This one, our world needs this lesson. Our world needs to practice this lesson. I need to practice this lesson. So let's go ahead. We'll get started with the first sentence. Abusive and unkind speech is the next vice to be overcome. Now, I want to say this is the first step since James Allen started explaining the steps that he's used the word vice. I believe anyway, over a quick reread, I didn't see it. When we did the first listing of the steps in the introduction to this chapter, an introduction to the 10 steps that James Allen's going to be talking about, he gives an overview of them. He lists all of them. And he lists vices of the body, vices of the tongue, and vices. What's the third? Hold on. Now I gotta. And the third one is virtues to be practiced and acquired, right? So first two are about getting your vices under control. The third section is going to be about how to behave and how to act, how to conduct yourself in the world in general. But so he used those words in that capacity, and I guess I'll show it to you since I already got it opened up to it. Like right here, it says, see if we can actually get it to focus in that camera and not ruin the whole shot. We'll see. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. Vices. Anyway, doesn't matter. Vices of the body, vices of the tongue. And now, but now he goes into this step, this fifth step, the one that's about abusive and unkind speech. And he says, the next vice to be overcome. Up until this point, he's referred to steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 as the next step to take. This one is the next vice to overcome. Now, I believe he does this intentionally. So I went and I've got a 1929 Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, and I looked it up because definitions do change over time. And the definition in that dictionary said, vice is a fault, defect, a blemish, immoral practice or habit, depravity, immorality, a vice. Also, so a vice can also be a physical vice you find in a workshop. But besides that, a fault, a defect, blemish, immoral practice or habit, depravity, immorality. So, after realizing he used the word vice intentionally here, because James Allen didn't put any words together to make a sentence that he had not thought out, that it was not crafted and built in a way to be giving a very specific message. I mean, that's what this entire section on speech is about. Be intentional and convey your message appropriately with the correct speech, right? So, of course, everything he's written is intentional and worded intentionally to give a very purposeful and intentional message. So he used vice here. Now, why do you think he used vice here? And I realize it's because he needs to make sure people realize this is a bad habit. This is a unhealthy habit, right? Well, of course it's unhealthy. Well, as much as we'd like to say that, it's not so widely understood that it is. It's not so widely accepted that even though it's unhealthy, you shouldn't do it. Some people know it's unhealthy and they still think it's justified to do, right? So many people actually take pride in their ability to be vicious with their words, their ability to be insulting with their tongues and witty with their insults, quick with it. They're willing to just annihilate someone's character at the drop of a hat, and they take pride in that. They use it to harm and to use it to, more so, they use it to maliciously upset somebody. They're trying to cause an emotional reaction with it, right? And people take pride in their ability to do this well. So if you take pride in it, you might feel like it's a good thing. So his use of vice here is that it's not good. And sometimes like I said, people can believe that it's not good, but they still think that they should be able to do it. They still believe that they should be able to, in certain situations, be justified in being abusive and unkind with their speech, and name calling, in being insulting and derogatory. Like, do not be proud of your sharp tongue. Do not be encouraged by your snake's tongue. Do not think it is ever justified to actually be able to go after somebody with such prejudice and maliciousness. It is not good. It is a false belief to think it is ever justified. Even though it feels good, doesn't it, though? It feels self-righteous. I'm giving them what they deserve, they might say. They've earned it. Well, they shouldn't have done that. Now I can just be selfish and self-centered, and I can just go after them because they did this thing to me. So I can go be an unhealthy human being now. People believe that. I believed that. I don't anymore. Because I found out that's false. I found out that regardless of circumstance or situation, it is never appropriate to actually go after somebody and be insulting and derogatory and name calling. It's never okay. It is a vice to do that. It is a selfish, self-centered vice. It is a moral behavior that should never be done. Now, like I said, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people that this might rub the wrong way. Because regardless of how we justify it, regardless of how it entertains us, regardless if we sometimes are using it just to serve our ego, whatever it is never appropriate to do that, to be malicious, to intentionally try to provoke an emotional reaction, to just berate somebody. This is a vice, an immoral behavior that needs to be corrected, and it should never be practiced. Now, that's the first sentence. So, let's remember that as we go forward. All right. Like, he refers to it as a vice to overcome, because we need to be reminded it is an unhealthy behavior, regardless of any other opinion of it or how righteous or self-righteous or justified we feel like we are. It is a vice that needs to be corrected. So let's go on to this next line. So the man who abuses and accuses others has himself wandered far from the right way. And in both books, the right way, the R is capitalized and the W is capitalized, meaning the spiritual life, meaning the higher life, meaning a moral, righteous, Christ-like life, if that's how you want to phrase it. So the man who abuses and accuses others has himself wandered far from the right way. So you are not living spiritually. You are not living a service-oriented life. You are not living a God-centered life. You are not living an other-centered life. You are not living in love if you do this. So James Allen instantly puts this back on us. He instantly says, hey, what you think is the problem isn't the problem. This is you. This is a you issue. If you want to do this, right? You have fallen from the right way. You have strayed from the path. You have gone and taken the wrong perspective, right? If you believe that it is appropriate or you are justified in using abrasive speech or abusive speech and to be name calling, then the other person is not the problem. You are. I was always the problem. I always still am the problem when this occurs. This is something I struggle with. And it sucks to admit that. Sometimes I've gotten a lot better at it. If it was a scale of horrible speech, I would probably only hover around the 1 or 2 area when I do this now, which is improvement. But the fact of the matter is I still do it occasionally. And this is a incredible reminder for me that is something I need to intentionally stop doing. That is something I need to be proactive in my awareness around. That is something I need to address because I want to live on the right path. I want to live the right way. I want to strive for a more spiritual way of living, a healthier way of living, right? I am the problem, and I need to correct that. So regardless of the situation, regardless of whatever it is, it's never appropriate to be abusive with your language, to be malicious with your tongue. It is never appropriate to attack somebody verbally. And it means that I have fallen off the path or fallen off the beam, if you like the 12-step verbiage. And this means it's something I've got to look at. And when we take a look at ourselves, if we look at why it is upsetting us and why we're allowing it to affect us, it tells us much more about us than it does about them, right? Remember that. What we get upset about says more about us than it does about them. And if we use that to justify bad behavior, we're always in the wrong. Always. The next line is to hurl hard words and names at others, is to sink deeply into folly. Let me read that again. To hurl hard words and names at others is to sink deeply into folly. So, I for some reason, since I had the dictionary out anyway to look up vice, I was like, you know what? I want to look up folly because I have this vague definition of it, like incorrectness. So I wanted to look it up. And so I looked it up, and it's a want of understanding, so a lack of understanding, foolishness, unbecoming conduct, criminal weakness, sin. So we drift deeper into our foolishness, into unbecoming conduct, into a lack of understanding, ignorance. He's saying that we have lost the mark if we are speaking in this way. If we want to, even if we have the desire to hurl hard words and call people names, right? If we even have the desire to do it, we are missing the mark. We are making a decision from ignorance. We are acting from a place of unawareness, a lack of understanding. We're missing the point of what's going on. If that is the urges we are having, if those are the actions we are taking, if those are the words we are saying, we've missed the mark. We've lost perspective. We are we end up blaming the other person. Well, look what you made me do. Look how you've gotten me riled up. You've made me so mad. I'm so frustrated because of you. I'm irritated. Look what's happened. How could you do this to me? Those are bull crap excuses. Those are giving somebody or blaming somebody for our own actions and behaviors, right? If we get into the blame game and saying, look what whatever it is, we've lost. It's over. We're done. We've lost perspective. We are making a mistake because we have lost our ability to act in a spiritual or virtuous or Christ-like, righteous, however you want to say it. We've lost the way because now we're just engaging in petty arguments. Now we're just in this childlike slinging of insults that goes back and forth, and it's just immature. Our egos got offended. Our pride got leveled. And we just want to yell and kick and scream and throw a fit on the floor when we're getting to this point. It's not healthy. And it's taking us out. For those who want to pursue a spiritual way of living, it's taking you out of the direction you want to be in. It's taking you out of the mindset and heart space you want to be in. You're not functioning from love. You're functioning from fear, right? And that's not where we can be. We can't stay there. We can't continue to function in that way. And we aren't making progress when we're acting that way. So let's start talking a little bit about the solution now. When a man is inclined to abuse and condemn others, let him restrain his tongue and look in upon himself. That's a big one. That's it. Again, so he says, hey, you're the problem. And then he said, hey, this is what you do. You need to keep your mouth shut and take a look at you. When a man is inclined to abuse and condemn others, let him restrain his tongue and look in upon himself. Right? There we go. This is what I was talking about previously, right? In the last sentence, we identified the problem. It's me. When I want to do this, or when I am doing this, right? Maybe I didn't catch myself. Maybe I didn't restrain the tongue. I just have the urge to do it. I need to look at myself. I need to take a look in upon myself, is the way he phrased it. And there's so much that comes. This is where the wealth of knowledge can come from, or at least one of the places for this stuff. And if you're functioning, if you take that as truth, that it's never appropriate to verbally go off on somebody, right? That it's never appropriate to say those types of words and to be malicious and have ill intent while speaking with somebody, then when you have the urge to do such a thing, you have to stop. Because you know that behavior is wrong. You know that behavior is not healthy. You know that behavior is selfish and self-centered, right? So you have to stop and take a look at yourself. And remember, you are always responsible for your own behavior, right? Don't let someone have that kind of control and power over you. This is what, like, the psychological stuff we can bring into this. Remember that anyone that can provoke an emotion out of you, and especially an emotion you act on, has power over you, right? And you've given them that power because they now know, hey, if I do this, they're going to get so angry that I can control what they do. I can play them like a fiddle, right? Just don't give that away. This step in the initial practice of it gives you back the power of how you want to conduct yourself, first and foremost. And then after you do that for a while, the spiritual growth and right living will kick in, right? Because the soul starts changing. Again, the process is change the external behavior, change the thinking, change the intention, and then it all sticks. It doesn't always stick when you just willfully stop to do it, but you have to start there. So don't give away that power to people. Instead, keep your mouth shut and take a look at yourself. And now it's easy to say, take a look at yourself, but what does that actually mean, right? That's what we're here to actually have a conversation about. What does it mean to take a look at yourself? This is an opportunity for growth when you're taking a look at yourself in this moment. Why do you want to go after them? Why do you want to call them names and be slanderous and be condemning, be abusive and malicious? Like, why do you want to do that, right? There's something behind it. Why do we desire to lash out? We have to ask this question. What fear did this touch on? What insecurity did this bring up Did it make me question myself in some way? Did it touch on something I have a lack of confidence in? Does it make me scared that I'm not going to get something I want, or something I have is going to be taken away from me, right? What did that reach into you and touch? What did it rile up? Was it could be an old wound from a past experience. It could be an old trauma from childhood, or not even just childhood, trauma in general, right? Where it's bringing back these emotions associated with something in the past. And it's just this energy is coming along, this emotion's coming from it. And all you want to do is just lash out because of it, right? But you don't. You recognize it. You see it. You look back and say, when did I feel like this before? What am I scared of? You ask yourself these hard questions. And when you ask yourself these questions, it'll set you up to do inventories. It's just like, why did I want to say this to this person? Well, because they were doing this, and that reminded me of this, or it made me feel a certain type of way. And I got worried that this was going to happen, or I got worried that that person was going to see it and my ego was going to get hurt, or that I was actually wrong and I didn't want to be wrong about this. I don't have the confidence in my ability to do whatever. It could be a plethora of things, but that's the beauty of it. You get to tear those things apart. You get to say, why is this happening? Why am I having this urge to do these things? Why am I what is at the root of it? And a lot of it is old belief structures. A lot of it's old belief systems that you need to toss out. A lot of it's forgiveness. These are the moments that you get to have where you find the truest sense of freedom, where you find old thoughts and ideas, old fears and beliefs that you get to say, I don't need that anymore. That isn't true. Or I need to take a look and I need to work on this some more. I need to understand how I need to think about it differently. We get the opportunity to change this stuff if we stop, restrain our tongue, and ask the real questions. Ask the questions you're scared to ask yourself. And sometimes, to be fair, you can't do it in a moment. I understand that, right? You can't sit down with a pen and paper in the middle of a conversation that you're trying to work through and do an inventory right there. But do yourself the favor of doing it at some point that day or that evening. Preferably not that evening if you're trying to lay down and go to sleep, but at some point, make sure you're writing about that. Make sure you're looking at that conversation. Go, how did that person? What did that person touch on in me? What did that person instigate or pull out of me or bring up in me? Right? Like, what is this? We need to reflect on us. We need to reflect on where it's coming from, because the person that we were in an argument with, that we wanted to say these things to, is just a person, a human being with all their own moral failings. Why would we ever want to attack them like that? We want to, when you're living a spiritual life, you want to function from a place of love and kindness and compassion and empathy and forgiveness and joy and happiness and all of these fantastic truths and virtues. So what in me would want to override that? And that is where we get to grow. That is where the freedom is. That is where we get to take a look at this and go, I don't need that anymore. I want to be able to love somebody regardless of what they're saying, right? And that's doing the work. Everyone says, oh, you got to do the work. Oh, you got to do the work. Oh, you got to do the work. Well, this is the work. This is what they are talking about. This is what they mean. This is looking at yourself, doing the inventories, being honest with yourself, talking about it with somebody a lot of times to help sort through it, because it's usually a lot of gray, usually a lot of lost or a lot of young perspective and a lot of young lessons we've learned incorrectly. And we need to talk that through sometimes with somebody to really do sort it out. But that is doing the work. That is having the willingness to actually change yourself and change what you're doing and change how you're living your life to be able to move forward and live in a way that is spiritual and righteous. to live in a way that is based in love and joy and freedom, and to be aligned with the God of your understanding, whatever that may be. This is the work. And we see it lost today. A lot of people just get sold on their own opinions that are based on old beliefs and old experiences, and they're not willing to actually take an honest look at themselves. And they're chained by their old way of thinking. They're chained by their old perspectives. And they're more committed to behaving in alignment with their emotional reaction than a virtuous way of living at those moments. Because that's just what they've known. They feel justified in it. They feel like they deserve it. At least that's how I felt when I would do that. Before I've switched over, before I started to wanting to live, choosing how I want to live instead of it being reactive to the world, that's what I thought. Now, I want to be a virtuous person. I want to be somebody that practices principle rather than whatever suits him in a moment. And that's what this last line's about. When we're going through this stuff, and you might not have a moment to do an inventory, but in those moments where you're emotionally dysregulated, we'll say, and you don't want to be abusive, you don't want to be malicious, you don't want to engage in the argument, how are we supposed to act? Well, good old James Allen tells us. The virtuous man refrains from abuse and quarreling, remember this, and employs only words that are useful, necessary, pure, and true. Useful, necessary, pure, and true. That is how you are supposed to speak at all times, especially when you're in the middle of a disagreement or an argument, especially when you feel like using your words for abusive and unkind speech. This is how you need to act. This is what you need to do. You need to speak with words that are useful, necessary, pure, and true. This is the standard we need to be aiming for at all times. This is the effort we need to put in. This is the stuff we need to take a look at, right? Our speech should always consist of those four things: useful, necessary, pure, and true. It should never be waste time. It should never be a lie. It should never be dishonest. It should never be assumptive. And it should be needed speech. It shouldn't be idle speech like we talked about last time, or just to fill the air. And it should have pure intention, constructive, loving intention. Now, I said earlier, I think we've lost the art of constructive arguments or productive arguments, and we just get lost in the muck and mire of insults and name calling, right? Like, we can have a disagreement. We can even have it to be a intense disagreement, but it can still be productive. It doesn't have to be this blowout. It doesn't have to be this judgment fest. It doesn't have to be this degrading character assassination that we embrace in so much in this Western world, in the world in general, I'm sure, but I just speak from my experience, and how we just attack each other back and forth. And it turns into, this, who gets the best insults, who has the best zinger, who's the most witty, who has, who can cause enough damage to someone's reputation or invoke enough emotion in someone else to consider they won the argument. There's nothing that is productive with that. The argument only distracts from the actual the conversation you're trying to find resolution to, right? So when it says refrains from abuse and quarreling, don't engage in the argument. Someone says, well, I think you're this. Say, thank you for your feedback, and move on and actually address the issue. You can't sit there and argue with them to change their mind about an opinion they've formed of you. That's unnecessary, and it's a waste of time. And it gives them control over the conversation, gives them control over your emotional state, right? And you sacrifice your character to satisfy your egotistical need to be viewed in a certain way, to be proven right, to have agreement, whatever it is. Refrain from engaging in the argument and the quarreling because it's just a waste of time. Instead, conduct yourself with speech that is useful, necessary, true, pure, and true. Just let the rest slide to the side. Let the rest just fall down. And let that be okay. Because if you're engaging in this, you want resolution for the actual problem, not the person's opinion. Right? We need to use our speech intentionally. We need to use the power. We need to remember how powerful our actual words are. We need to remember the strength and the power of this, the way we present ourselves, the way we construct a sentence, the way we engage in a disagreement, the way we pursue in good faith a resolution, right? We have power. We have purpose if we just respect it and speak with intention. And like I said, useful, necessary, pure, and true speech. Don't engage in all that stuff that's going to undermine the quality of what you say. I mean, when you think about it, how long have we engaged in pointless arguments with our partners, spouses, children, coworkers, our bosses, with strangers, even strangers online? How many people have just dumped hours into keyboard battles with somebody? Because what did that get you? Frazzled, worked up, angry, frustrated, despairing, angry at the world. What does it actually do for you when you get there? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We have wasted time. We have corrupted our own character. We have sacrificed our goodness for the sake of winning an argument. How much have we held ourselves back because we just want to make sure we were right? We want to make sure that they know that they were wrong. I know I've wasted a lot of time with that. I know I've spent way too much time in my mind having fake arguments with people that I'll never see again about stuff that never mattered because it made me feel better. It made me feel powerful to win and to be feared and to hurt. And that's wrong. The real power comes from being able to choose how you want to act. The real power is be able to practice how you want to be in your life going forward and not give the strength and the power to anyone else. Not allow yourself to be controlled, your speech to be controlled, your thoughts to be controlled. We have the ability to take this by the horns and just take that back. We really do. And stop slowing our progress in this world and stop slowing our spiritual walk. We need to continue to grow. And we've forgotten how to do that sometimes. I know I have in the past. I know I still can from time to time, even with all of this. I can still forget to let my words be useful, necessary, pure, and true. But that's why I'm grateful for reading this lesson today. That's why I'm grateful for reading this step with y'all today. And it's been, like I said, there's so much. I think it was actually 5 sentences. There's just just cracks open something that is such a problem today, that's so widely accepted today, it's expected today, this constant attack we do to each other verbally in all forms of media, whether it's in person, on a phone, on a text, online, on a podcast, whatever it is. Remember, we need to conduct ourselves with useful, necessary, pure, and true speech at all times. And when we don't want to, when we get the urge to do something else, that's the work we need to do, and take that honest look at yourself to see why you didn't want to follow a virtuous spiritual path. And then enjoy the growth. So, well, there we go. That's the end of the episode for today. It's been incredible. So happy to have heard this one. I needed to hear this one today. I hope you all did too. Please go ahead, give us a like, a follow, subscribe, whatever it is. I hope you all are enjoying it. I appreciate the support so much. It's really cool to see this slowly but surely grow, and get this message and get these practices and these spiritual understandings out to more people. So thank you so much for that. And just a preview of upcoming attractions next week will be the 4th step in the discipline of our speech, and it will be overcoming levity and irreverent speech. I'm looking forward to going through this one with you. So, thanks again, and until next time. Thanks.